This week on the Angus Report, we learn about a sustainability framework developed to leverage transparency. Hear about seasonality in the beef market from our friends at Certified Angus Beef. Meet the new President of Angus Media, Brett Spader, and hear about one of the most successful, unconventional warfare campaigns in modern history. This is the Angus Report. Hello and welcome to the Angus Report. I'm Katie Holdener. Transparent, easily detected or seen through. In a day and age where technology is literally at our fingertips, beef producers are tasked with sharing their agricultural story with as much transparency as possible. The goal of the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef is to arm producers with a sustainability framework as a voluntary resource developed to answer questions that producers may have.
I'm the current chair of the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef, which is a multi-stakeholder initiative working to advance sustainability in the beef industry. And that means, continuing to improve with production practices, but also really elevating beef and giving consumers permission to really feel good about it. Consumers are asking for more and more production transparency in how and where their food comes from. And our sustainability initiatives sort of lend that level of transparency to those consumers and help our customers answer tough questions that consumers have about the way beef is raised.
Among all consumers, the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef has identified one key demographic to cater to.
Our target consumer right now is the millennial parent, 22 or 23, all the way to 37 or 38. So that would be currently sort of that age range of consumer. And right now, a lot of effort are on millennial parents. And so that millennial mom, she is in there making the decisions for her family in the grocery store or in the food service restaurant. And she wants to do the right thing. Right, and I think that's an important thing to remember, as beef producers oftentimes will be defensive, right? So she's asking questions, and they may be hard questions for us to answer because we never thought about it in her perspective. But we have a tremendous opportunity to recognize that her questions are really coming from a good place and to help her understand that she has nothing to be afraid of when it comes to buying beef and really buying food for her family.
Stackhouse Lawson says, production transparency is an expectation of today.
Other proteins identify with the consumer by providing them niche products, right? We've seen an increase in antibiotic-free chicken, for example. That is affordable to do in the chicken system. And in that way, consumers feel like they have more transparency into the way that animal was raised. Beef, it's such a large supply chain and the system is so complex that we don't have the same ability to deliver a free-from product, right? And to help them feel good about something, whether or not it's scientifically validated or not. And so really, we have an opportunity here to identify with consumers that we do share their values and that we responsibly put beef on their plates every single day.
Based on consumer preferences, the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef has created the sustainability framework to add to beef producers' resource toolbox.
So the Roundtable has worked on developing what we're calling a sustainability framework, which is really just a set of resources to help define sustainability and to help advance it throughout the supply chain. So for example, on the ranch, one of the sustainability metrics is the implementation of a grazing management plan. And so for a cow-calf rancher, one important sustainability practice would be having a grazing management plan and really working with the land, like we know that ranchers do already, to really continue to improve and to make sure that we're transparently talking about how well we do caring for our land and cattle. Consumers don't use the word sustainability per se, but they do talk about things like responsibility and stewardship and animal welfare and environment, right? And so we set up the framework to really address all of those key initiatives throughout the entire supply chain. So different than many roundtables, the Beef Roundtable also has metrics to advance beef sustainability for retail partners. So that transparency really talks about doing the right thing through all stages of the beef value chain. The millennial consumer is different than any consumer we've ever gotten to interact with as a industry, and they are changing the marketplace, right? We have things that we've never had before, right? I mean, Amazon and deliver-to-door service and all of these unique things that millennials love. But the one thing millennials are belief buyers. And millennials really value what's authentic and truthful. And in fact, they have a tremendous ability to identify sort of fact from fiction and how authentic the story is. And they're okay with real life in general. And so I think that's a tremendous opportunity for us to help them understand our day-to-day and the life of an animal on a ranch and the life of an animal in a feed yard. And yes, that animal is harvested and then, put on their plate. And I think that we haven't talked about that with previous generations because they didn't want to know, right? There was this sort of, I want to love beef and that's it. But this generation wants to know, and we have an awesome story to tell, and we just need to figure out how to elevate that in a 30-second message for that new millennial consumer.
Stay tuned. Next, we hear about how seasonality affects consumer purchases at the grocery store and how to cater your offering to that market.
Welcome back. As summer comes to a close, many look forward to the seasonal changes that come with the next few months. This may mean changes in clothing, weather, or the daily routine of chores on the ranch, but many don't realize this is also true for buying decisions that affect demand in the beef market. Here's Nicole Ursig with Paul Dykstra, beef cattle specialist at CAB, with more about the seasonal market trends.
Welcome to the Certified Angus Beef Market Report. I'm Nicole Ursig. Today, our beef cattle specialist, Paul Dykstra, and I are talking about seasonal beef trends. So, Paul, there's some predictability in where we can see the beef market go throughout the year. Tell me about what these seasonal trends are.
Well, the seasonality of the beef markets is one piece that we can count on as very predictable on a typical year from both the supply and demand standpoint. Starting with demand, from the beginning of the year, we can look at April and May time period, even out into June, as being the first big push for demand for high quality middle meats. And we typically see the choice select spread widen, the CAB spread and prime, etc. at that time because first of all, folks have been kind of pent up all winter and they're looking to go do some grilling. And they want a high quality product to do that. We get out there into the summer, into say the middle of July and even into August, kind of the dog days of summer, we don't see the demand for high quality beef nearly as much typically, just due to the fact that folks aren't wanting to grill as much and are looking more for a hamburger and a hot dog that time of year. Moving into the fourth quarter, ahead of the Christmas holiday and the other December holidays, we see another big spike for high quality middle meats again as folks are looking to celebrate and have a high quality piece of beef on the plate to do that with family and friends.
Yeah, roasting season.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So what does this mean on the supply side? Can we predict some of the same seasonality from what cattlemen are doing?
The cattle supply plays a great deal into this picture as well, and we have an interesting scenario in the spring where we have, first of all, we have most of our calves born in the spring of the year, and then in the following year, most of those calves are also being harvested, but as the youngest of those calves are being harvested April, May, June, we see the quality grade slip quite a bit. And the lowest point of the year for percent choice and the percentage of CAB acceptance as well. So that kind of coincides with a low in supply at a period where demand is very good. So we see those quality spreads once again significantly higher. Moving out into the fall then, though we talked about that period from a demand aspect, supply is a little steadier and a little better at that time of year, but in that case, the demand just kind of outstrips supply. So it's really kind of based on what age the cattle are and how many days on feed they've had throughout the year, and that kind of ebbs and flows in terms of the quality grade and the CAB acceptance rate as well.
So if I want to get rewarded, I really want to target that peak in the spring when grilling season is about to happen. That's where I'm going to be rewarded most for those high quality cattle. Typically
that's the case. A lot of folks in the feed yard industry are targeting calves that will be harvested in April and May when that spread's significant. And then again in the latter part of the fourth quarter is another good opportunity to merchandise cattle grade well there, and that's a good opportunity for those yearlings that are coming off feed then.
Anything I should be thinking about as I'm preparing to merchandise cattle this fall, or as I kind of plan out how I want to market my cattle?
Well, again, Oftentimes we have cattle in our inventory that we can't do much to change the inventory today, right? But we can think about how we're going to market them. And a lot of folks will, again, in the feed yard, look to start sorting on those pens as the choice select spread widens, CAB carcasses become more valuable in prime as well, so we can optimize the value of each individual. So a bit more management and targeted marketing is warranted there in, say, November, December, even as early as October. So that's kind of the season to really be thinking about that marketing strategy.
Thank you, Paul. For more information like this, head over to cabcattle.com. There you can subscribe to the CAB Insider, a bi-weekly market newsletter written by Paul.
We check in now on the latest cattle market news with the Cattle Facts Update.
Hello and welcome to the Cattle Facts Update. I'm Patrick Linnell. Feeder cattle and calf movement has been slow this summer, despite the supply of feeder cattle outside of feed yards as of July 1, being the largest since 2010. From July through late August, feeder cattle and calf receipts through auction barns, video sales, and direct trade are down 360,000 head, or 14% compared to last year. The primary driver of this decline has been feeders and calves selling through auction barns throughout the country. Fewer cattle have sold through USDA reported auctions throughout the North Plains, South Plains, and Southeast regions, totaling 178,000 head lower than last year since July. Direct receipts have also played a significant role, down 77,000 head, or 14% from last year. Video and internet sales have also been down by over 100,000 head. It's worth noting that many of these sales are calves for fall delivery. Uncertainty surrounding the corn crop planted acreage drove higher corn futures and higher costs of gains, dampening feed yard demand through much of the summer. Less aggressive buyers and green grass throughout many parts of the country drove the lower sales receipts and slower placements through early August. Corn futures then relaxed after the August 12th USDA WASDE report, but a major break in the live cattle futures market at the same time is now the primary factor in slower movement. The lower futures prices decreased the incentive to place cattle on feed and lowered offering prices, and sellers of feeder cattle and calves are not excited to sell at the lower prices. The decreased sales have gone hand in hand with slower placements into feed yards. July marked the third consecutive month of smaller feed yard placements, down an average of 2.4% versus 2018. Cattle on feed was virtually even with year-ago levels as of August 1, with the largest July to August decline since 2008. Early estimates suggest August placements will likely be slightly smaller as well. With the larger population of cattle outside of feed yards and less sales receipts in recent weeks, expect a large movement of yearling cattle coming off grass in the coming weeks, as well as a large calf volumes as the fall run picks up. For the Angus Report and Cattle Facts, I'm Patrick Linnell.
To learn more about Cattle Facts, your leading source for beef industry market information, visit cattlefacts.com. Next on the Angus Report, we welcome Brett Spader, the new Angus Media president, to the Angus family. Stay with us.
Welcome back. A true stockman, livestock marketing visionary, and no stranger to the Angus family, we're excited to welcome Brett Spader as the new president of Angus Media.
For me, coming to work at Angus Media was a lot like coming home. I'm Brett Spader. I'm the president of Angus Media. I live in northeastern Kansas with my wife Jill and my daughter Sloan, who's 7. And we love all things agriculture, and we love to raise cattle and raise quarter horses and also have herding dogs. And we absolutely have been so excited to see me join the Angus breed and join Angus Media here in the last few weeks. I grew up in northwest Missouri. I grew up near Rosendale, Missouri, and we had a small cow-calf operation. And of course, my father worked for the Angus Association his entire working career. A lot of folks also know that my mother also grew up in the Angus breed, and she comes from a great Angus history herself. My grandparents have continuously had registered Angus cattle their entire lives, and that's how my mother and father actually met, was at an Angus event. And so when it came time for them to raise their family, it was really logical to engage us as a family in several Angus activities, certainly junior programs, public speaking contests, carcass steer contests. These were all things that were very active in growing up. And so that just set the mold for me, both personally and professionally. So many of the relationships that I had from those junior activities, lead conference, you name it, I still have the opportunity to work with those folks as they've gone on to create careers in the Angus breed as well. And so after high school, went to school at University of Missouri in Columbia for animal science and ag econ, and completed that and came to work at the Kansas Livestock Association, and primarily was a fieldman for the Kansas Livestock Association at that time, and then it morphed into more of a director of marketing role over time. From there, I spent 7 years as director of operations at DV Auction, and of course their core business there is digital livestock marketing, broadcasting cattle sales on the internet and offering online bidding. It's also at that time that continued to do a lot of livestock video, something I started at KLA days and expanded while there. And then the last few years at the National Center for Beef Excellence. On my typical day when I'm not at work, would be outside still, riding with my wife and daughter. My wife's a very avid horsewoman. She's a barrel racer, and now I've got a barrel racer in training in Sloan, who's 7. And so we love to just go ride. The other thing, we do raise herding dogs, and so we like to work with young dogs and train dogs and use them to herd cattle. And that's a great way to spend our time. We also, as a family, really like music. And so particularly Sloan, she's learning to play piano from her mother and learning to play guitar from me. So that's a fun thing to do. And so a lot of it's really centered around family time. That's one of the absolutely the most important part of my life. And so I get all the time that I can with them on a weekend. It's a really interesting business that we work in. You know, and it's, if you come from outside the seed stock realm or even outside agriculture, you can't help but be a little perplexed by it all. And so when you live it and eat, sleep, and breathe it, it does make it quite a lot easier to understand the best ways to reach people. We see people adopting more digital applications all the time, utilizing social media. That doesn't mean that we do away with print. Print is still absolutely a very vital component to helping people get information in any format they want. And that's our job as marketers. And when I like to think about it, I don't necessarily think about it as marketing plans, I think about it as communications plans. Because we're there as Angus Media to put those seed stock producers in a position to communicate with their existing and potential customers throughout the entire year. I truly do believe that there are some staples to what we do from marketing and communications that will never change. And that's the relationships that are so key between a buyer and seller. And that's the trustworthiness and the ability to communicate the values of your organization or your brand or your ranch and your breeding philosophies. Those things haven't changed in 3, 4, 5 generations. And so I think we as Angus Media know that at the end of the day, we're there to serve the membership. We're there to serve our customers. We're there to, again, arm them with the tools to do a great job. I really, truly did enjoy working with those other breeds, and I learned so very much. But there was a comfort level for me to come back to the Angus breed. It's exciting to be able to be within a team that values the heritage of where my family and all these other families have been for the last 3, 4 generations, that also values the innovation. And the great thing about that innovation, it's not necessarily innovation just for the sake of change. It's truly centered in the fact that we're doing and trying to do every day the right thing for the breed and its breeders. And so as long as we have that North Star focus, with innovation and change, and knowing that that's our ultimate priority, we can be excited about moving very quickly in the future.
For more information on marketing services, visit angus.org. Up next, we visit with Green Beret Mark Nutsch. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Angus Report. Green Beret Commander Mark Nutsch shared with Angus University attendees the true life story and lessons learned of helping lead what is considered the most successful unconventional warfare campaign in modern history.
On September 11, 2001, I would soon command a Special Forces team, a team of Green Berets, and our team would spearhead this incredible mission to go into northern Afghanistan and work with different ethnic leaders, bring these different leaders together to rise up against the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. The Taliban had been very brutal on different ethnic populations that were the minorities across the northern part of the country, and they had pushed them deep into the mountains where it was really rugged and harsh terrain, and the main mode of transportation was the centuries-old horseback. And so surprisingly, my team and the handful of Americans that were there would ride horseback over the next 23 days. It was incredible, humbling that that feature film, 12 Strong, portrays all of my sergeants and I, and we hope that sheds light on some of these other incredible stories that are yet untold to the American public. I hope that will inspire some young men and women to step forth for the tough jobs, whether that's farming and ranching or to join the military. I grew up on a Kansas cattle ranch, rodeo in 2001. The Army was not training any of its special operators how to ride horseback, so that was certainly a surprise and experience. All those lessons in grit and perseverance that were learned on a ranch, paid off. My family still ranches in north central Kansas, and for that, going back to their ranch in the Flint Hills region of Kansas, for me, has always been a re-grounding in between my many deployments overseas. For me, that was just to get back to balance and normal. It's great. It's very welcoming to be here. It's like being home. To be back, as share a little bit of this real story about the men in mission with these farmers and ranchers from across the nation.
That's a wrap for this week's Angus Report. Tune in next week for industry-leading news and education. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Angus TV, for more highlights from the association. See you next week.